Good evening and welcome to Tech Insights with yours truly, Brian Cochran. We're here let me put up that banner. Matter of fact, let's go backwards just a minute. Hold 1 second. There we go. We're here every Tuesday at 6 p.m. and we talk about video, audio production. We talk about software solutions. And we're going to be doing interviews in the very, very near future. We're on XLR TV, and we are Tech Insights with yours truly, Brian Cochran. And today, we are going to be dealing with the difference between a webinar and a Zoom or conference, a web conferencing meeting room. And this is episode number 16, and we are glad you are tuned in today. Good evening to you again. I'm Brian, and I'm excited to be here. I've been doing a lot of webinars lately, a lot of streaming lately, and I've had this pop. Before I get into, let me explain why I'm doing this lesson today, this session today, in this episode today. About a week or so ago, matter of fact, it'll be a week ago Wednesday, I did a streaming for a person who was using Zoom, and because I don't use Zoom, I didn't know it that well, but we were able to get the video right, but I was having a challenge with the video. And then I looked at some forums later on, and part of the challenge is Zoom was not created to really do web conferencing. It's really set up to do meetings. And so I use professional switchers or prosumer switchers, and for some reason it wouldn't connect with the audio. So I go, let me do some investigating, and then I was trying to explain to my client that there's a difference between doing a webcast or webinar and doing what he uses, a visual Zoom meeting, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's, as one of my favorite TV guys, restaurant guys say, let's do it. All right. In our lesson today, we'll go through what are web conferences and webinars and how they work in your streaming workflow. What is a video conference? I'm glad you asked. A video conference is an exchange of audio video at the same time between a various number of people. As many number of people of various locations all over the world can join in a video conference at the same time. A video conference is done with the help of computer and or smartphone networks of different people living in separate geographic states, locations, towns, cities, whatever. So it's all over, wherever, people can join in and go into this one big room. What do you need to host a web conference? One, you need a software or a video calling application. So, the biggest one right now is Zoom. That's why it's up there on top. And then there's Join Me. GoToMeetings has been around longer than Zoom. Uber Conference, which is relatively new. Then there's a bunch of others. Too many to number. But they all have something in common, which is they all meet in one room. But we'll get into that in a little bit more detail in a second. Hardware-wise, you need an online network, microphone, speakers, and a video camera or webcam for video calling. And you also, one of the things I forgot to say too, the difference between off the top is a video conferencing software. You must download the driver, the operation system to your computer, and that's one of the things I forgot to put in here. But I might as well let you know that now as well. What is video conferencing used for? For many online meetings, trainings, educational classes are done through video conferencing. And again, I should have put a picture up there. I think I put it up there in the beginning. Everybody meets in this one room, and it's like going into an entree, and going into a conference room, and then you all meet in the conference room. That's the same principle, but it's online. What is a webinar? If you look at the picture, it's something that churches do. They stream, as well as you see here, a gentleman there on the left is actually watching a webinar. As you see there's only one person in the room. No, I'll get back to that in a second. A webinar is a web-based seminar or webcast. It is an online presentation, workshop, or seminar That is a transfer from the web by using any video calling software. And a webinar is an online event that is hosted by an organization or person or company and broadcast to a select group of individuals through their computers via the internet. And the one of the differences, which I don't think I have here, that a webinar usually has its own URL, and that you will go to the URL and anybody can watch the URL based upon having that URL. And the difference between a web conference and again, some of these things are just coming up to my memory, so please forgive me. And one of the things a web conference does, you can also have the same thing, but you also have a password on a web conferencing system or web meeting. A webinar is sometimes also referred to as a webcast, internet broadcast, online event, or a web seminar. Those are some of the names that you'll hear out in the internet. Types of webinars: there's presentations, product demonstrations, Sunday services, and lead nurturing, and so on and so forth. There's more. Those are the basic tools that are basic type of webinars that are presented. You can also do seminars, as we talked about earlier. Right, as a matter of fact, right now, what you're viewing now is basically a webinar where it's one-dimensional, and we'll get into that more in a minute. Webinars are, for the most part of outbound, one-directional video streaming, which is what we're doing right now. That's why it's letting me wait. You can share media, documents, and various files in a webinar also or two. The presenter is presenting the lectures or seminar. The attendees can share the files and documents with each other and are able to ask questions within the system through texting or through comment sections or something like that, depending on what type of system you're using. Some of the webinar systems, Webinar Jam, which I used to use, also Zoom also has two parts. They have a video conferencing side, and they also have a webinar side. They're two separate things, and they're two separate costs. And more than likely, most of you probably don't know that Zoom also offers a webinar system. YouTube, Facebook are also a webinar type broadcasting system that is one-dimensional, one-directional. Only you can view within your comments or through the comment section down below. Live stream is a very popular one, been around for a long time. On24 is a real good one. In Soho Meetings has both conference and webinar systems. There's tons and tons and tons of them out there. Main differences between video conference and webinar. Let's get into it. Video conference is video calling or online video meeting. Webinar is as I mentioned earlier, is the online exchange of presentation workshops and or a seminar. A video web conference is a two-way communication where you can talk with each other within the meeting. And so everybody that's in the meeting can tune in and watch and talk and so forth and participate. A webinar is one way. You cannot talk to the presenter while they are presenting. Video conference has a lot of involvement with the audience because they're all in one room. Just think of it as the same way as being in a conference room and having a conversation. That's what the main thing of a web conferencing system is. And a webinar has not any special involvement with the audience except for through chat. And so there is, again, it's one-dimensional, and it's you broadcasting a signal just like I'm doing right now. You can't interact unless you go into the comment section below, either on Facebook or YouTube, and then it'll pop up. And even then, I can't really communicate with you. It's just I'll have to text back. Or actually, I speak, and then you just text. Web conferences can support a limited, excuse me. Yeah, web conference or video conference is limited by the size of how many people can go into a room by its software. So, I know I had a system before that you can have 100 people, 200 people in a room, but everything gets a little smaller, and unless you have controls where you can turn off and mute, everybody talking, or a presenter comes up and presents, and then everybody comes in. I know that Zoom does some of that, but there's some limitations which we'll get into a little bit later on in our conclusion. Webinars can support unlimited audiences. You can have million people because, again, it's one-dimensional. It's broadcasting a signal out, And so you have to worry about bandwidth as long as a person can click to wherever it is that is being broadcasted, the signals being sent out, a person can watch. So it's unlimited as far as audience size. In web conferencing, every participant is a presenter, and every presenter is a participant. Again, because everything is in one room. In a webinar, participants listen to the presenter just like you're doing right now and cannot ask questions directly, only through the means of what I mentioned earlier, through some type of chat or texting. Web conferences, someone see you see each other, can see each other, and presenters that they only see they cannot see their participants. I'm saying that over and over again on purpose because one of the challenges that I've seen in several different, most of the folks are using because Zoom is free, and so because it's free, a lot of folks jumped on it, but it does have its limitations, and so you need to get into the paid version, which allow you to do webinars. So what happens is I was working with a church. Let me pull over just for a second. I might as well deal with it now. Yeah, I was dealing with a church in Monrovia. Actually, it wasn't the first install. It was one of the installs that just did not too long ago, and the pastor was using Zoom. And so what was happening was that when he would try to do it, and he would try to talk, other folks would pop up because as soon as they say a word, say something, their picture and their vocal will pop up, and so you had to go in and mute. But there's still a challenge because sometimes what happens is because it's not made for what he's using it for, the challenge is that sometimes it still pop up, sometimes it's still not. You don't get the full picture. You still see the people either across the top or on the sides. Where if you want to broadcast like you're doing now, like for a Sunday service, because his plan was to use it for a Sunday service. And so I was telling him that there's something different, that you need a web conferencing system in order to really do what you want to do. For Bible studies, web conferencing is perfect because it's a small group of people, that there's interaction and so forth, and the room has better control for that. But as a webinar, again, there's no interaction within the platform because it's not set up to do that. So those are some of the main things I wanted to talk about today. In conclusion, you're going to need, if you're, I do a lot of church installs, so I'm going to talk about it from the church perspective first, and then I'll talk to you as if you're an entrepreneur or a business person trying to get your message out. That as for web conferencing, if you're doing a town hall meeting, if you're doing a meeting right now because of the COVID, everybody's not meeting inside the building, so you're meeting online. It's perfect for that because that's what it's manufactured for. That's what it's invented for. It's been around for over 10 years because WebEx was the first one to do it, and then came what's the other one that everybody uses? Give me 1 second. The other one. Skype. Yeah, Skype was the other one. And so they allowed you to do certain things, have meetings and so forth online and do it. And that's perfect for that. But if you're trying to do a Sunday morning service or a Bible study where you want to teach the study, and then if they want to ask questions later, then maybe you can have your conferencing system, and then you have them at the end of the, they write down their either through, like today, if you want to ask a question, just put your questions up in the comment section, which I'll give you a second to do that if you'd like to do that as well. And so, but I use 99.9% because I do more broadcasting than interaction. I use web conferencing systems because it for me, just like now on my StreamYard, which I've talked about before, and I'm able to have, like on Monday nights, I do I have on our TV network, we have a pastors panel. So we have between 6 and 9 people in the room that, we have a conversation, and then we ask questions and so forth. And then outside people, if they want to ask a question, then they do so through the comment section below on the channels that we're broadcasting through. So that gives you the flexibility of doing that. If I want to do larger, where I want to do a larger town hall meeting, where I want to have 30, 40, 50 people in a room, then I would use, Zoom, or as a matter of fact, we have our own on our TV broadcasting network. We have our own on BAC TV. We have our own video conferencing system that we use for that. But primarily I use 99.9% of what I do is I use webcast systems because I broadcast more than I do interaction. Then when I have private meetings, and the cool thing about, actually, I think both platforms and most platforms, they also record. So that gives you the flexibility to download whatever it is that after the broadcast is over, after the meeting is over, you can download it and use it. They put it up on your website. The cool part about web conferencing is that I haven't been able to see it yet for Zoom, and I don't know how to do it. So please forgive me. If you know how to do it, hit me down below to let me know how to do it. But in webcasting, that I can embed on a website, on my own personal website. I can also stream it through Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, and all these other destinations all at one time. And it allows me to do that. Through Zoom, I think you're only able to do one or two, and it's different. I've seen some pastors using it, do it. Matter of fact, the pastor that I was talking about in Monrovia, he was using it, doing it that way as well. And he was also streaming. And then Pastor Dante out of San Bernardino, he uses as well, and he streams through Facebook. So it does it, but it doesn't work as smooth because it wasn't created for. They've been changing it to help it to do so, but for the most part, I use a webcast because that's what it's dedicated for. You can use, cool thing about webinars systems are they have capture pages, which I talked about last week. If you're doing a hybrid event, you're doing a conference of some kind, then you'll probably end up using both. You'll probably use for your main event, your keynote speakers and that kind of stuff would go through, and they would speak on the webinar system, and then you have your break. Like Zoom is perfect for your breakout rooms, where you can have multiple rooms that your other speakers that are part of the conference can go into those other rooms. So that's what that's perfect for. And then the limitation of a webinar, it can't do that because it's one dimensional. So whatever you choose, go ahead and if you have a question, let me put up my contact information. There we go. If you have any questions about webinars and web conferencing, that's my contact information. Hit me up. That's my personal cell number, my website, my Facebook, all my contact. Most of my contact information is there. Hit me up, and then that way I can help you, set yours up and so forth. Just like last week in episode 15, I dealt with doing hybrid, and because I was doing a hybrid, then I saw this one of the challenges, and also working with some of the other churches and other businesses. Now, for business people, webinars, if you're doing like private, counseling, then webinar is perfect for you, because the only person who can come into that is the person that has the password that you send the link to, and it's just the two of you that you do private consultations. It's perfect for doctors and that kind of stuff. If you're doing presentations, like I'm doing right now, where I'm bringing up my PowerPoint, I'm using PowerPoint in our presentation, then webinar systems is perfect for that because it allows me to do that. I can also let me show you some other stuff that I can do with webinar systems that you can't necessarily do. I can put up my website, lower thirds you can do in a conferencing, in a webinar system that you can't do in a lot of the other systems, because they're not in web conferencing systems, because again, they're not set up for that. They're not set up for broadcasting. Webinar systems are set up specifically for broadcasting and getting the message out, conveying whatever the story is, whatever the content you're trying to provide to your viewers. That's what that's for. And so that's it. This is a little bit long one. Please like and share this video for those that don't know what the difference between what is a web conference system and what is a webcast system, or webinar system. That if you're just tuning in, go back and watch this video, because it'll help you understand what the difference between the two are. If you need some help, hit me up, either DM me down below, and I will gladly go over what software I use. Today was more important about what I use. It was more important about teaching you what the differences are, so that way you understand. If you're trying to do, they're apples and oranges. There are some similarities, but at the end of the day, they're different, and they're created for opposite things, for them to do what we talked about today. It does. This is Brian Cochran. Thank you so much for tuning in. God bless you. We'll see you later.